What do you think? It's a question. It's a big question. Why do you think mother tongue policy failed in Nigeria? And in another story on page 13 of our Vanguard newspaper, we have, where are our wives, husbands of kidnapped defense minister directors cry out? Where are our wives, husbands of kidnapped defense ministry directors cry out, on page 13 of our Vanguard newspaper? That's a big one. Then we have the LGR location. Supreme Court strikes out Ocean's case against FG, and that's on page 8 of our Vanguard newspaper this morning. Like I said, we have interesting stories on our Vanguard newspaper this morning. So why mother tongue policy failed? Why do you think mother tongue policy failed in Nigeria? What do you think about it? What are your thoughts about it? What are the reasons you can give us and say, oh, this is the reason why mother tongue policy failed in Nigeria? These are the reasons. I have my own reasons. You have your own reasons. And that's the reason why we say that you should send us your thoughts, your comments on Idea TV. Follow us on all our social media platforms, on Telegram, on Facebook, on TikTok. Send us your thoughts, your comments. Why do you think mother tongue policy failed in Nigeria? Is it that we're not putting effort enough? Or what do you think? We're hoping to hear from you. Now let's go to our next story on the Punch newspaper, Saturday Punch newspaper this morning. We have interesting stories that you would love to hear. Let's dive into one of the stories this morning. Now we have a big story here. Acquainted Lagos Dr. Olufemi Olaleye remanded in UK for recording sexual acts. I told you we have interesting story. That's another big story that you would love to read about and know what exactly went down there. And one of our big stories, we have the main big stories here on page 4, and the story reads, real reasons ex-defense minister Badero resigned. You want to know the reasons why he resigned. You've heard a lot, but now you want to know the official reason why Badero, the ex-defense minister, actually resigned. And it's going to be, it's going to be a timeout for you to think outside this weekend and know the reason why the minister resigned. Okay, now let's move to another entertainment story that you would want to hear here, and that is on page 29 of our Punch newspaper this morning. And that story is, I was mocked, betrayed over 16 years of barrenness, Anambra woman said. That's on page 29 of our Vanguard newspaper. It's actually an interesting story that you want to read. How real estate firm duped 400 investors in fresh Ponzi scheme. 4,000 investors in fresh Ponzi scheme. Is that really still going on right now? Okay, that's another big story on page 22 and 23 of our Punch newspaper. Now we have another interesting story that you want to read, and that's power drunk Edo official brutalized me for defending my cameraman. EBS journalists. That's another interesting one you want to know. That's on page 2 of our Punch newspaper. That's on page 2 of our Punch newspaper this morning. And under it we have, your enemies of democracy, PDP slums defeating Rivers lawmakers. Oh, that's a big one, and another interesting story that you want to read and know about. Alright, before we take you to the rest and the remaining stories that we have for you this morning, which I know you would love to read with us on this our newspaper review, let's go on a quick break, and when we return, we're sure to give you the rest of the stories as they come.
Number 2. Advanced neurotechnology beyond BCIs. Brain-computer interfaces grabbed headlines when Neuralink implanted its first chip in 2024. But neurotechnology is much broader. Researchers are testing non-invasive brain stimulation to treat depression and PTSD, while companies like Kernel are developing helmets that can monitor brain activity with unprecedented detail. Clinical trials are exploring personalized brain therapies for epilepsy and Alzheimer's. In 2023, the U.S. NIH launched its Brain Initiative 2.0, investing billions in advanced neurotech. By 2026, these innovations could expand from medical use into wellness and cognitive enhancement. Number 6. 6G networks and beyond. 5G is still rolling out worldwide, but work on 6G is already in motion. South Korea, Japan, and Finland are leading trials, with commercial deployment expected around 2030. 6G aims to use terahertz frequencies to deliver speeds up to 100 times faster than 5G and latency as low as 100 microseconds. That's fast enough to support real-time holograms, autonomous fleets, and massive IoT ecosystems. The ITU has begun setting 6G standards, while companies like Nokia and Samsung are actively developing hardware. By 2026, early 6G pilots will give us a glimpse of the post-5G world.
Welcome back. This is Ideas TV Newspaper Review, and we're sure to give you the rest of the stories and reviews of newspapers that we have this morning for you. And I hope that you're enjoying the newspaper review this morning with me this Saturday morning. Okay, let's dive into the next story we have here for you this morning. We have Ocean 2026 APC Screening Committee disqualifies Omosari Alabi for orders, and that's on page 5 of the Nation's newspaper this morning. Sorry I didn't tell you the name of the newspaper. It's actually the Nation's newspaper this morning. And we also have our big story here. We have the Supreme Court to FG implements judgment on direct allocation to local government states, and that's one of the big stories we have here this morning. And moving forward, we have Kwam joins race to become next Awojele of Ijebu land, and that's on page 3. That's an interesting story you want to hear and read about Kwam joining race to become next Awojele of Ijebu land. For the Yoruba people, I hope the pronunciation was actually right. Okay, so we have another entertainment story on the Nation's newspaper, and that is on page 3 of the Nation's newspaper. We have alleged sexual harassment. Akpabio slams 200 billion naira suits on Natasha. Are we still ongoing about that? That story actually came that period, and we talked about it a lot, and now it's coming again on our screen, and I know it's going to be a big one. So I know we all are going to go read it, and that is on page 3 of the Nation's newspaper. There we have another story. Security. Our goal is to overwhelm the enemy, said the President Minister Christopher Musa. Wow, that's a nice one. And we have Nigeria is safe, says ex-British PM Boris Johnson, and that's on our the Nation's newspaper. And we also have APC controls Rivers Assembly as speaker. 16 orders defects, and that's on page 4 of our Nation's newspaper. All because of our time, let's go right into the next newspaper for this morning, and that is on the Guardian newspaper this morning. Okay, we can see our amazing headline big story we have there. But before we go to our big story, let's take some of the stories that we have here. Sunset at noon for scholars, mentor, bridge builder, say, wow. And we also have danger looms as pets threatens ginger farms. That's another story about farm products. That's one. We have blast from the years Lucas at our civil service. Wow. That's an amazing one. Another the big story we have this morning, we have Igbos and their trouble with Nigeria. Ex-Minister Guinea-Bissau said. Igbos and their trouble with Nigeria. What do you think is the trouble of the Igbos with Nigeria? The ex-minister said. Now let's go into the next story. Interesting stories we have here. We have the Supreme Court strikes out Ocean's suit on withheld LG funds, and that's the news on page 3 of our newspaper. And we have allegations of land grabbing is handiwork of mischief makers. And that's on page 36. I'm laughing because the stories are actually interesting and you love to read them yourself and know the full story that we have there. And we have on insecurity, Gani Adams, Rivers Monarch, orders canvas stakeholders collaboration to end menace. Wow, that's actually a big one. We are looking forward to all this ending, all the menace actually ending. And we have Wiki qualifies defection of Rivers Speaker 15 lawmakers to APC. And that news is on page 2 of our newspaper. And we have Dangote assures of stable fuel supply ahead of Christmas. Ooh, that's a big one. Everybody wants to rush to that story, and it's on page 35 of our newspaper this morning, of our Guardian newspaper this morning. You want to hear because most of us are planning to travel to go prepare and eat our Christmas rice. Okay, let's move forward to our Saturday Telegram newspaper this morning and see what we have on the Telegram newspaper. Okay, I'm going to make this very easy and very brief for others to understand. On the big story, Northerners in ADC want South aspirants to run against Atiku. That's a big one. That is on page 5. And on page 26 we have Supreme Court strikes out Ocean suit on withheld local government funds on page 26 of the Telegram newspaper. There we have Rivers lawmakers free to leave factionalized PDP, says Wiki. That's on page 4. As Speaker, 15 orders effect to APC. I'm still in PDP, insists FCT minister. Wow, that's actually a big one. So, moving forward to the rest of the news, we have ambassadorial list. Many nominees risk rejection abroad. That's on page 2. Wow. AMB Lawan. Wow. Many nominees risk rejection abroad. What do you think about this big story that we have here? Do you think that this is actually true, that there is rejection abroad? Do you think the story is actually not adding up? What are your thoughts? I want to hear your thoughts and your comments on this particular story that we have here because it's actually a big one. Says Nigerian currently needs credible, experienced diplomats. Tinubu playing politics with nominations. Do you think Tinubu is actually playing politics with the nominations? Like the person says here that Nigeria needs credible, experienced diplomats. We need credible, experienced diplomats. Tinubu playing politics with nominations. What do you think? Do you think Tinubu is actually playing politics with the nominations? We want to hear your thoughts. We want to hear your comments. We want to hear you. Your comments are very important. Let's know which side you're on. Are you on my side or are you on the other side? Okay, let's move forward. Terrorists will overwhelm Nigeria if state police is not in place. That's actually true, Gani Adams said. That's actually very true. Okay, let's go to our last newspaper that we have for you this morning. An interesting one as that. We reserved the best for you. Okay, that's on our last newspaper this morning is taken from our weekend newspaper. Wow. So one of the stories we have on the Weekend Trust is We should pray for Nigerian Senator UK Umar. We should pray for Nigeria. Very, very important for us to pray for our country, Nigeria, because when the country is growing, we are growing with the country. And when the country is going down, believe you me, every other thing goes down with the country. So it's very important that we pray for our country, Nigeria. And that's on page 12 of the Weekend's Trust. And we have another story, how APC ADC benefits from PDP crisis. Do you think they're actually benefiting from PDP crisis, or do you think otherwise? That's on page 28 of the Weekend's Trust, and we have another story there, a day in the life of Kwara's town crier. That's on page 13. It's actually a funny but interesting story right there. And we have irrigation farming under threat. That's on page 4. That's a big story. And moving forward, we have Kogi, a gateway under attack. Do you think Kogi is actually a gateway under attack? Wow, that's a big one and a thoughtful one as that. Is it under attack? Presently, yeah, it's under attack. But what do you think? Like I said, we also want to hear your comments. We want to read out your comments sometimes. Lieutenant Yerima, life after encounter with Wiki, and that's on page 33. I know it's an interesting story. You want to hear about Yerima. What is his life after the encounter? What's happening to him? Is he still in office? A lot of questions here and there. How you're going to know is by diving into the newspaper this morning and reading about the whole story and what is happening with him after his encounter with Wiki. How beautiful his life is after the encounter, or how, his life is after the encounter. So all this you're going to see at page 33 of the Weekend's Trust newspaper this morning. I believe we brought to you interesting newspaper review this morning and interesting stories around the globe, what is happening. Do well to follow us across all our social media platforms. I are Dear Television. I remain Mary O. G. Major. Thanks for watching.